Welcome to The Explainer. We often hear stories about messianic figures from historians or critics, people on the outside. But today, we're going inside. We're going to look at how a Messiah's story gets told from the perspective of a true believer, a story of incredible faith, intense persecution, and ultimately the birth of a global movement. So, how is a Messiah's story told? That's the big question, right? We're about to dive deep into how a powerful narrative, one that's just dripping with absolute conviction, can become the very foundation for a worldwide phenomenon. It's fascinating stuff. And our guide for this journey is a really unique document. It's called Messiah, Volume 2, and it's written by a man named Colonel BO HI PAK. Now, you gotta understand, Pak wasn't some detached journalist or critical historian. Nope, he was one of Sun Myung Moon's most devoted disciples, a true believer. And that fact, it changes everything. Right, so first things first, before we can even touch the story itself, we have to get inside the head of the storyteller. This isn't just, some minor detail. It's the lens. It's the filter through which every single event we're about to talk about is seen. So Pak's book, it's not trying to be an objective biography at all. In fact, he calls it a sacred testament. Think about what that means. For him, he wasn't just writing a book, he was recording holy scripture. Every single thing that happened, he saw as divine prophecy unfolding right before his very eyes. Yeah, there's actually a word for this. Hagiography. It's basically a biography written to make its subject look like a saint. And getting this is so important, because in Pak's world, there are no coincidences. Nothing happens by chance. Every setback, every victory, it's all a part of God's master plan. All right, so now that we've set the stage, let's get into the meat of it. We're going to dive into the core theology that Pak lays out. This is the absolute bedrock of the entire movement, and it's called the divine principle. Now, according to Pak, the divine principle isn't just another book written by some smart guy. Not at all. It's presented as a direct revelation from God himself, delivered through Sun Myung Moon. The idea is that this is the final, complete truth, the key that unlocks all the mysteries that older scriptures, like the Bible, left unsolved. And this whole theology really rests on 4 key pillars. It's a pretty epic story, actually. It starts with God's original, perfect plan for creation. Then it explains how everything went wrong. That's the human fall. After that, it lays out God's long plan throughout history to fix the mess. And it all leads up to, you guessed it, the arrival of a new Messiah. Okay, and here's where things get really unique. The whole theology hinges on a new interpretation of the Adam and Eve story. The divine principle says the original sin, the fall of man, wasn't just about eating an apple. No, it was about an illicit relationship that literally corrupted humanity's entire bloodline, cutting us off from God. So if the problem is a corrupted bloodline, that means the solution has to be a new, pure one. And this completely reframes the mission of the Messiah. The thinking goes like this. Jesus started the job of spiritual restoration, for sure, but he was crucified before he could get married and start a perfect family, so his mission was left incomplete. That means the new Messiah has to finish the job by establishing what they call a true family and physically restoring humanity's lineage back to God. All right, so as you can probably guess, dropping a theology this radical didn't exactly make them popular. According to Pak's Chronicle, this new teaching was met with immediate, and I mean fierce, opposition. It really felt like they were under siege from every direction. You had established Christian churches screaming heresy. You had the media whipping up these sensationalized, panicked reports. And then you had the government itself, hitting Sun Myung Moon with arrest after arrest and constant legal challenges. And this is where that believer's perspective we talked about becomes absolutely key. To anyone on the outside, it looked like a total disaster, right? Constant failure, social rejection. But on the inside, it was the exact opposite. Every single obstacle was seen as a test from God, a providential test. It was like a holy fire, meant to burn away impurities and purify the faith of the true believers. And that is such a critical point. The hardship wasn't a sign they were wrong, it was proof they were right. Every time Moon was arrested, every time they went to trial, it wasn't a legal problem. It was framed as this profound symbolic suffering, the same kind of suffering that prophets of the past had to endure. It actually confirmed his messianic mission. So if the problem is a fallen bloodline and the mission is to fix it, this brings us to the Unification Church's big solution. How do you actually create a new, purified humanity? It starts with this number, 36. In 1961, this seemingly random number became a massive turning point for the entire movement. For the believers, it was the start of a whole new chapter in God's grand plan for restoration. So what was it? It was the number of couples who took part in the first really big blessing ceremony. Sun Myung Moon himself personally matched these 36 couples. And they were seen as the pioneers, the very first families chosen to start God's new, sinless lineage on earth. And you have to understand, this blessing is way, way more than just a wedding ceremony. It's seen as a sacred ritual. The whole point is to spiritually cut a couple off from that fallen human lineage we talked about, and then engraft them into God's true lineage, all through their connection to Sun Myung Moon and his wife, who are called the true parents. And you can see the logic here, how it's designed to scale up. It all starts with the true parents, who are seen as a new Adam and Eve. Then you have the 36 couples from 1961. They're like the first seeds being planted. From there, the goal is to just keep expanding, blessing more and more people, until eventually you have a whole new humanity, one that's finally free from original sin. Okay, so they've got the theology nailed down, they've got the central ritual, the blessing, established. What's next? Well, according to Pak, this is when the divine command came down. It's time to go global. And Colonel Pak's book is just filled with these absolutely incredible stories of sacrifice. Young missionaries were sent out to foreign countries, the US, Japan, all over, with basically nothing, a few dollars in their pocket maybe. They didn't speak the language, they faced just extreme poverty and loneliness. Their whole job was to establish a beachhead for the global movement, and the personal cost was immense. But this mission wasn't just about spreading theology. It had a really strong ideological focus, too. Victory over communism became this huge rallying cry. And from their point of view, this was not a political fight. It was a spiritual war. They saw communism as a fundamentally satanic, godless ideology that had to be defeated. So when you look back at it all through Colonel Pak's eyes, you see what these early years were really all about. It was about laying a foundation that could never be shaken. They were creating a new theology, forging a tight-knit community in the fires of persecution, and launching a mission they believed would literally save the entire world. And all this leaves us with a really powerful final thought, doesn't it? What Pak's story shows us is the incredible power of narrative. To build a global movement like this, maybe the most potent weapon isn't logic or evidence. Maybe it's a story so powerful, so compelling that it can take suffering and turn it into a victory, and take a world of opposition and transform it into the ultimate proof that you're on a mission from God.